Hello, friends. You're watching The Night Watchman, where every day you'll hear a brand new horror story that will send chills down your spine. But to keep bringing you these terrifying tales, we need your love and support. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's begin the story. I never believed one night could change the entire course of my life. But the night of October 17, on a lonely stretch of Langley Road just outside Redwood, Pennsylvania, something happened that I still cannot fully explain. I've been a night shift security guard for years, working at quiet warehouses, empty shopping centers, even the Redwood water plant once. But nothing had ever prepared me for what I witnessed that night. I took the night shift at Hawthorne Hill Nature Reserve, a massive forested area about 5 miles from town. Locals avoided the place at night, saying the woods woke up after midnight. I dismissed all of that as small-town superstition. My only job was to guard the visitor station, check the CCTV feeds, and report any trespassers. But on this particular night, every rule I believed about reality began to break. My shift started at 11 p.m. The cold fall air wrapped around the station as I unlocked the main door. The building was old, wooden walls, a tin roof, and a small office inside with 2 monitors controlling over a dozen cameras. I glanced at the screens. Empty trails, still parking lot, silent picnic benches. Everything was calm. As usual, I brewed coffee, logged the time in my notebook, and messaged my sister, on shift, all good. Nothing felt unusual. Not yet. Around 12:37 a.m., one of the feeds flickered. Camera 4, the North Trail. The image went blurry, then sharpened again. And for half a second, I thought I saw someone standing on the path. A female figure, tall, long hair, wearing a pale dress. But the screen stabilized, and she was gone. I sat forward in my chair. No one should have been inside the reserve at that hour. Thinking maybe it was just a lighting glitch, I rewound the footage. The frame before the distortion showed nothing. The frame after showed nothing. But the distorted frame, there she was. Just a blur of a tall shape, but unmistakably there. A cold feeling crawled up my spine. I called my supervisor, Mark Calloway, who handled the nighttime operations. He answered groggily, "Everything okay?" "Camera 4 picked up movement," I said. "Looks like a female trespasser." "A hiker, maybe," he replied. "Go check. Radio me if you need backup." I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside, the forest swallowing the sound of my boots. The night was darker than usual. No moonlight, no wind. As I headed down the narrow dirt path, everything felt unnaturally silent, as if the trees were holding their breath. Half a mile in, I saw something lying on the ground. A shoe. A white sneaker. Small. Maybe a woman's size. Fresh. Clean. As if it had just been taken off. I scanned the area with my flashlight. "Hello? Anyone out here?" No response, but I felt eyes on me. Somewhere beyond the trees. Then the radio on my belt crackled violently. "Shh! Turn around." I froze. That voice wasn't Mark's. It wasn't any voice I recognized. It was soft, whispering, like it came from directly behind me. Heart pounding, I spun around with my flashlight. Nothing. Just trees. Dense, silent, unmoving. I swallowed hard and backed away slowly. Something about that trail felt wrong, as if the moment I turned off my flashlight, the darkness would swallow me whole. I returned to the station faster than I'd ever walked in my life. At 1:28 a.m., the disturbances escalated. Camera 7, the observation deck, began shaking violently as if something hit it. Then camera 5, the lake view, went pitch black. Then camera 2, the entrance gate, started replaying old footage from daylight hours, on its own. One by one, cameras glitched, flickered, and froze, like something was moving through the reserve, disturbing each location as it passed. I stared at the main screen, heart pounding, and then camera 4, the North Trail, activated again. My breath caught in my throat. The woman was back. Clear this time. Standing perfectly still, tall, long hair covering her face, white dress blowing slightly, although there was no wind. She wasn't walking, she wasn't moving. She was facing the camera, staring into it, staring into me. I felt rooted to the floor, unable to blink. Then the screen flickered. Her head tilted slowly, unnaturally far, almost sideways. The feed cut out. My entire body went cold. The building creaked. A soft footstep echoed on the wooden porch outside the front door. 1, 2, 3, slow, deliberate. Someone, or something, was walking outside the station. I killed the lights and crouched behind the desk. The footsteps stopped, right in front of the door. I held my breath. Then, knock, knock, knock. 3 slow knocks. The door handle twitched. Once, twice, then turned completely. But the door was locked. "Who's there?" I shouted, voice trembling. No answer. Instead, my radio crackled again. Static. Then a voice. Not a whisper this time, but the exact same voice as the one from camera 4. Her voice. "Let me in." That was enough. I stumbled backwards so fast I hit the wall. "Go away!" I yelled. The knocking stopped instantly, replaced by the sound of soft footsteps walking along the wall of the building, towards the back, where the windows were. I rushed to the window near the office desk, peeking hesitantly. Nothing outside. But then, a pale face slid into view, leaning sideways into the window frame, as if she had stretched her neck unnaturally far. No eyes, just dark, empty holes. She smiled. My scream caught in my throat as I stumbled back, knocking over a chair. I grabbed the station phone to call 911. Dead. The lights flickered violently. The floor vibrated. Then every camera feed came back on at once, but they all showed the same image. The woman, standing in front of each camera, as if she was everywhere, as if she wasn't moving through space, but through the cameras themselves. My radio erupted again. "You didn't have to see me, but now you do, so now you can't leave. Leave me alone," I yelled, grabbing my keys. I ran to the back exit. The metal handle was ice cold, painful even. When I pulled it open, the outside wasn't the forest, it was the North Trail, the exact same perspective as camera 4. The trail that was over half a mile away, but now it was right behind the building. "How?" I whispered. Movement appeared at the end of the trail, a white figure, running toward me, fast. I slammed the door shut and locked it. The impact hit the metal so hard the whole wall shook. I backed away, shaking violently. I ran to the front door, threw it open, and sprinted toward the parking lot. My truck was only 30 feet away, but halfway there, everything went silent. No crickets, no wind, no sound of my own feet. The entire world felt muted. I turned. She was standing 5 feet behind me, closer than she had ever been. Her face was clearer now, stretched, hollow, eyes like wells of darkness. She lifted her hand slowly. In it, she held the white sneaker I found on the trail. She dropped it at my feet and whispered, "It was yours." I didn't understand until I looked down. I was wearing only one shoe. The other was gone. Her smile widened. My throat tightened in terror. I sprinted the remaining distance to my truck, threw myself inside, and slammed the door. She was already outside my window, her face pressed to the glass. I turned the ignition. The truck roared to life, and I sped out of the lot without looking back. I didn't stop driving until sunlight hit the sky. At 7:12 a.m., I finally pulled into the Redwood police station and told them everything. Officers went to Hawthorne Hill that morning. They found the visitor station untouched. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no woman on the cameras. But they did find one thing, a single white sneaker right in the middle of the North Trail. They bagged it as evidence. But no one claimed it, and nothing ever explained how it matched the shoe I had lost that night. Hawthorne Hill Nature Reserve closed permanently last month. People claim it was due to funding issues. But I know the truth. The night has things living inside it. Things that don't belong to this world. Things that use the darkness to move, to stretch, to step through places they shouldn't. And one of them saw me, recognized me, and for reasons I don't want to ever understand, it left my shoe behind. So I wouldn't forget her. I never will. Story 2. I never believed that one shift could change a person forever, until the night of November 12th, 2022, when I took the overnight security contract at Ridgeview Pass, a forgotten rest stop tucked along Route 97 in northern Washington. My name is Evan Cole, a 27-year-old former truck driver turned night security guard. I had taken the job because I needed the money and because Ridgeview Pass was usually empty after midnight. A quiet shift, easy pay. That's what the company promised. But nothing about that night was quiet, and nothing about what happened was normal. The air was cold enough to burn the lungs when I stepped out of my Ford Ranger at 11:48 p.m. Ridgeview Pass sat between dense pine forests on both sides, its only structures being a shuttered diner, two outdated vending machines, and a restroom building with flickering yellow lights. My supervisor's voice echoed in my mind. Stay inside your vehicle most of the time. Don't wander too far, and if anything strange happens, report it. Don't handle it alone. At the time, I thought he was just being dramatic. I did a quick walk around to check the perimeter. Everything felt still, too still, like the woods were holding their breath. Not a single car passed on the road. Even the wind seemed frozen. I got back into the truck, turned the heater on, and logged the start of my shift. Nothing seemed off until 12:27 a.m. I leaned forward when I saw the figure walking slowly down the center of the empty highway. A woman, thin, pale, wearing a loose hospital gown fluttering in the wind. No hospitals existed within 25 miles. I stepped out and called, "Ma'am, are you injured? Are you okay?" She didn't raise her head. She just whispered something over and over. The wind carried only fragments. "Don't let him find me. Don't let him find me." My heart picked up. "Who's after you?" She looked up. Her face was streaked with dirt. Her eyes, God, they looked like she hadn't slept in years. "He comes in the dark hours," she said. "Who does?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed a trembling finger toward the tree line behind me. And then her expression changed, slowly into pure terror. "He's here!" Before I could react, she sprinted past me and hid behind the vending machines. I turned toward the trees. Nothing. No footsteps. No branches snapping. No animal sounds. Just silence. I approached the trees, shining my flashlight along the dark woods. Then I heard it, a low, dragging sound. Not footsteps, something heavier, like a long object being pulled through the dirt. Shh! Drag! Shh! Every hair on my neck lifted. "Who's there? Show yourself!" I yelled. The dragging stopped. The silence that followed felt heavy, suffocating. I took one step back. Then the woman screamed. I ran back to her, but she wasn't there anymore. Just the vending machines humming softly under the flickering lights. "Ma'am?" I called out. No reply. But then I noticed something. Her footprints. They led behind the machines. Then suddenly, they stopped. Completely. Like she vanished into thin air. My breath fogged the air as I whispered, "This isn't real. This isn't real." But it was. The old diner across the lot had been closed for 8 years. Power was cut, windows boarded. Yet at 1:09 a.m., its interior lights turned on. All at once, bright, white, buzzing. I froze. Then the open neon sign flickered to life, like a dying heartbeat. Open, open, open. Impossible. My radio crackled. Static at first. Then a voice, barely audible. "Evan, don't go inside." My blood chilled. It wasn't my supervisor. It wasn't anyone I recognized. "Who is this?" I asked. Static. Then the same dragging sound from before echoed behind the diner. "Shh! Drag! Shh!" Fear tightened around my chest like a fist. But then the lights inside the diner began to dim, as if something walked past them, blocking them out one by one. I backed away. There was something moving inside. Something big. Something I didn't want to see. I hurried toward the restroom building, thinking maybe the woman ran there. But I stopped dead when I saw someone standing in the doorway. Tall, very still, facing the inside of the restroom, not out. I called out, "Sir, are you okay?" The man didn't respond. I stepped closer, but my gut screamed at me to stop. His body looked wrong, too stiff, too stretched, like he didn't belong in his own skin. Sir? He slowly turned his head toward me. Not his body, just the head. A slow, unnatural rotation until the face came into view. But it wasn't a face. It was just darkness. Like someone had cut out the shape of a head and replaced it with a void. I stumbled backward and fell. The figure stepped forward, its movements jerky and delayed like broken animation frames. One step. Pause, second step. Pause. Then, the lights in the restroom went out. When they flicked back on, he was gone. I sprinted back to my truck and slammed the doors shut, locking them. My hands shook as I grabbed the radio. Dispatch, this is Ridgeview Unit 4. I need immediate backup. Possible missing person. Possible. Something else. Something dangerous. Silence. Then the radio hissed, and I heard a whisper. Check. The diner. No, I whispered. I'm not going there. Then from the passenger seat next to me, my truck's dash cam screen flickered. Video playback started on its own. Grainy black and white footage. Timestamp. 12:27 a.m. The moment I saw the woman, but the footage showed something I had not seen before. Behind her, walking slowly through the dark road, a tall figure, too tall, arms dragging on the ground, head bent sideways. Its movements matched the sound. Shh. Drag. Shh. My heartbeat hammered my skull. I fast-forwarded, the woman hiding behind the vending machines. And then, footage of her being lifted straight into the air by invisible hands, kicking, screaming, before being pulled violently toward the diner. I covered my mouth to stop myself from yelling. This thing had her. The diner lights flickered again, and this time, the front door slowly opened. A hand appeared in the doorway. Her hand, the woman's, bruised, bloodied, reaching out, but her voice was wrong. Evan, she whispered, drawing out every syllable. Come. Inside. I shook my head violently. I'm calling help. Just hold on. Her arm bent at an impossible angle, twisting backward. Then the rest of her stepped into the doorway. Only it wasn't her. Her body was being used like a puppet, limbs jolting unnaturally as she walked. Her head snapped upward, and her eyes stared at me, wide, forced open, filled with terror. And then a deep voice, one that didn't belong to her, rumbled from her throat. He is already here. Every light in the rest stop blew out at the same time. Darkness swallowed everything. I couldn't see the road, the diner, the trees, only the cold black void. And within that void, breathing, slow, heavy, animalistic breathing circling my truck. I curled into the driver's seat, breathing so fast I thought I'd pass out. Then, a whisper pressed directly behind my ear, inside the truck. Look at me. I refused. I shut my eyes and prayed like a child. Silence, then tap, tap, tap on the windshield. I opened my eyes and saw a face pressed against the glass. Not human, too large. Skin stretched thin, jaw unhinged and hanging, eyes like empty sockets. It smiled, a long, slow, impossible smile. I screamed. I turned the ignition. The engine roared to life. I floored the accelerator. The creature shrieked, a sound like twisting metal and breaking bones, and slammed against the roof of the truck. The metal dented inward. I kept driving, faster, faster. Branches scraped the sides as I tore down the highway. The rear view mirror shook violently. And then, in the reflection, I saw it. Running on all fours behind me, fast, too fast. Its arms hit the ground like sledgehammers, dragging long marks in the asphalt. I pushed the truck to its limit. The speedometer hit 87 miles per hour. Still it followed. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it stopped. Its body froze mid-stride, and it slowly backed into the dark forest, eyes never leaving me, until it vanished completely. I didn't stop driving until sunrise. When I returned with state police later that morning, the rest stop was empty. No footprints, no damage, no blood, no woman. The diner had no power. The restroom had no sign of forced entry. And the dash cam footage? Corrupted. Every file. The company dismissed my report. No investigation. No follow-up. I quit 2 days later, moved away from Washington, and swore never to take another night shift. But sometimes when I'm driving late, I hear the dragging again. Shh. Drag. Shh. And sometimes when I check my mirror, I swear I see something tall step back into the trees, waiting, watching, knowing exactly where I am. Story 3. I never believed in haunted nights or cursed places. I always assumed fear was a product of exhaustion, imagination, or too much caffeine. But everything changed on October 29th, 2022, during the overnight shift I picked up at North Pine Wildlife Station, a small ranger outpost deep inside the forests of Washington State. I only took the shift because I needed the overtime. My girlfriend Emily had recently moved out after saying I had become emotionally absent. She wasn't wrong. The job demanded long hours, endless reports, search and rescue calls, and a constant low-grade stress that followed me everywhere. But that night, that night rewired every definition I had for fear. The station was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you check over your shoulder twice. The forest around us was pitch black, blanketed in a cold fog that rolled in from the river. The only sound was the hum of the radio and the ticking wall clock above my desk. At exactly 12:17 a.m., the radio crackled. A voice whispered through static. "Is anyone there? Please." I leaned forward, assuming it was a hiker or a drunk student messing around. "North Pine Station," I said. "This is Ranger Garrett Cole. State your location." The voice came again, shaky, slow, terrified. "They're in the woods, behind the cabin. They're not human." A chill crawled up my spine. "Ma'am, I need your name." After a few seconds of static, she whispered, "My name is Natalie Pierce. I'm at cabin 12. Please come. Please." Cabin 12 was abandoned. No one had rented it in years. I grabbed my flashlight, radio, and service weapon. The forest road leading to cabin 12 was nearly invisible under the fog. The trees were towering, silent, unmoving, as if the entire forest was holding its breath. When I reached the cabin, all lights were off, but the windows were frosted over from the inside, even though it wasn't cold enough for frost. My breath started forming clouds in front of me. The temperature had dropped at least 20 degrees within seconds. I pushed the cabin door open. "Natalie, this is Ranger Cole. Are you hurt?" The inside was completely dark until my flashlight caught something. Bare footprints, leading across the floor. But they weren't small enough for a woman, and they weren't shaped like human feet. My throat tightened. Then I heard something move. From the bedroom, a slow, dragging shuffle, like someone pulling themselves across wooden boards. I stepped toward the bedroom doorway, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Natalie, if you can hear me, speak." Silence. I pushed the door slightly. The moment the beam of my flashlight entered the room, something darted across the floor. So fast I barely glimpsed it. My instinct kicked in, and I raised my weapon. The thing crouched in the far corner had long limbs, ash-gray skin, and a face too stretched to be real. But in its arms, a woman lay bleeding, shaking uncontrollably. "Natalie!" the creature hissed. Its head snapped toward me. Its eyes were white, pure white, reflecting my light like glass. And then, impossibly, it mimicked her voice. "Help me, please!" I fired. The bullet tore through its shoulder. No blood, not even a reaction. It vanished, like a shadow dissolving into darkness. I grabbed Natalie. She was freezing cold, trembling. "We need to go," I said, lifting her. But when I carried her outside, the entire forest had changed. The fog was thicker, almost solid. No moonlight, no sound, no wind. And worst of all, my patrol truck was gone. Natalie pointed toward the tree line with a shaking hand. "They're not from here," she whispered. "They come when the lights die. They take people." Before I could respond, a loud thump echoed from above us. Something landed on the cabin roof. A heavy, deliberate step, then another. The wood groaned under its weight. Whatever it was big. I pulled Natalie behind me and drew my weapon. Another thump, then scratching, then breathing. Slow, deep, predatory breathing. The roof creaked like it was bending under pressure. "Run," I whispered. We sprinted into the trees. Behind us, the roof collapsed inward, followed by a guttural shriek that didn't sound like any animal on earth. The forest path should have led back to the access road, but no matter how long we ran, we never reached it. The trail kept stretching deeper, twisting in ways I had never seen in daylight. My GPS showed nothing. The compass needle spun like it was broken. Something was wrong. Something impossible. Natalie stumbled to her knees. "They changed the woods," she said, crying. "They trap you inside it. That's why no one comes back." Branches snapped behind us. Many branches. As if multiple things were closing in, I clenched my jaw and pulled Natalie back to her feet. "Keep walking. Don't look back." But she did, and she screamed. I turned. Through the fog, silhouettes were forming. Tall, thin figures, moving unnaturally, bending at angles no human body could bend. Their eyes were glowing white. Dozens of them, all watching us. I lifted my radio and pressed the button with shaking hands. "North Pine Dispatch, this is Ranger Cole. I need immediate backup at Sector 4, Cabin 12 vicinity. There are multiple unknown—" The radio crackled violently. Then a voice came through. "Not dispatch, not human. Stay with us. You came into our night. You don't leave." I dropped the radio. Natalie clung to my arm. "They're inside everything," she whispered. "The radios, the shadows, the fog." A piercing noise ripped through the trees, like metal scraping bone. The figures were closer now. Too close. I grabbed Natalie's wrist. "Run!" Through the suffocating fog, a faint orange glow appeared ahead. A fire? A lantern? A campsite? We sprinted toward it. As we grew closer, I saw it wasn't a lantern. It was a flare, still burning. And beside it was my patrol truck. But the windows were shattered. The doors were open. Claw marks stretched across the metal. Still, it was our only chance. I shoved Natalie into the passenger seat and jumped in. The keys were still there. I turned them. The engine coughed. Coughed again. Then roared alive. Dozens of glowing eyes swarmed the tree line. I slammed the accelerator. The truck tore through the forest road, branches scraping the sides, fog swallowing everything. We drove until the forest finally broke open and the distant glow of North Pinetown appeared. Not a single creature followed us beyond the tree line. Natalie was taken to the hospital. When authorities returned to the cabin, there was nothing. No footprints, no claw marks, no collapsed roof. Nothing to prove any part of the night had happened. The cabin looked untouched. They didn't believe a word we said. Natalie vanished from the hospital 2 days later. Security footage showed her walking into the parking lot, then disappearing into thin air. Some nights, when I'm at the station alone, the radio crackles at 12:17 a.m. and a voice whispers, "They're behind the cabin, help," and the temperature drops again. And every instinct inside me tells me, they know I escaped, they know I saw them, and they're waiting for the lights to die again. Story 4. I never believed in the stories people whispered about the old pine forest behind Pine Brook, Oregon. As a kid, I thought they were just tales parents made up to keep children from wandering too deep at night. Even when I grew older, became a paramedic, and moved back to the town I once called home, those stories felt like nothing more than small-town folklore. But everything changed on the night of October 14th, 2022. The night I learned that some stories aren't stories at all. It was 11:58 p.m. when the dispatch alert came through. Unit 4, possible injured hiker near North Pine Trail. Caller disconnected. The North Pine Trail wasn't a normal trail people casually wandered into. It was a stretch of wild land that locals avoided after sunset. For decades, hikers had reported hearing voices in the dark, footsteps behind them, or glimpses of someone walking just out of sight. I didn't want to say yes, but duty always wins. My partner, Evan Matthews, was already tossing supplies into the rig when I climbed inside. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said. "Just tired," I lied. But something in my chest felt wrong, like my heartbeat wasn't synced to the rest of my body. We drove into the forest, the headlights slicing through the dark like weak, trembling fingers. The deeper we went, the more the radio crackled, until finally it went completely silent. No service, no dispatch, just us. We parked near the trailhead. The forest was unnaturally quiet. No wind, no rustling, no insects, nothing. Evan swung his flashlight around. "You notice that?" "Yeah." "Feels off." I forced a breath. "Let's find the hiker and get out." We walked down the narrow dirt path. 15 minutes passed, then 20, and then we heard it. A whisper, soft, close, right behind us. I spun around. The beam of my flashlight hit nothing but trees. "You heard that, right?" Evan whispered. "I did." The whispering returned, this time from the right, then the left, then right behind my ear, so close I could feel warm breath. But the forest was empty. Evan's hands trembled around the flashlight. "We should head back." "We can't. Someone called for help." He swallowed hard. "What if that someone wasn't human?" I didn't answer. We reached a clearing, a circular patch of dirt where the trees bent inward like a crowd peering down at something beneath them. At the center stood a man, tall, barefoot, clothes torn like he'd run through barbed wire. His back was toward us. "Sir," I called out, "are you hurt?" He didn't move. Evan nudged me. "Something's wrong." I stepped forward. "Sir, we're paramedics. We're here to help." The man's neck twisted, not turned, twisted, farther than a human neck should ever move. His face was pale, his eyes completely black. Not pupilless, just black, empty. Then he smiled. Not a normal smile, a long, stretched, tearing smile that reached almost to his ears. My body locked. Evan stumbled back. The man's voice scraped through the air like broken glass. "Wrong hour." Just 2 words, but they froze everything inside me. The forest exploded with whispers. Hundreds, thousands. They were rushing between the trees, circling us, tightening around us like a noose. Evan grabbed my arm. "Run!" We bolted back toward the trail. Branches cracked. Footsteps followed us. Fast, heavier than any human. The forest began to change. Trees weren't just trees anymore. They looked like silhouettes of people, standing with heads bowed. The whispering grew sharper, louder, desperate. "Come back, don't leave. Stay with us." I screamed, "Keep running." But Evan slipped on a root and hit the ground. "Get up." I can't. My leg." And then the whispers went silent, completely. A shape stepped out behind him. The same man, same torn clothes, same impossible neck, same stretched smile. Except this time he wasn't alone. Dozens of figures appeared between the trees. Men, women, children, all with hollow black eyes, all whispering the same words. "Join us." I pulled Evan by the jacket, but something yanked him backward. Something invisible, something strong. He screamed as he slid across the dirt toward the figures. I grabbed his wrist. "Evan, hold on." The whispering poured into my ears, more intense than anything I'd ever felt. "He belongs here. Let him go. Come inside, too." "Help me," Evan screamed. But his voice was swallowed by the dark. The figures closed around him. I saw his flashlight flip through the air and land near my feet. And then Evan disappeared. No body, no sound, nothing, just gone. The whispering stopped again, and a voice, low, echoing inches behind me, said, "Wrong hour for the living." I ran. I didn't stop running until I burst out of the trees and collapsed near the ambulance. The air around me felt lighter, like I had crossed some invisible barrier. When I looked behind me, the forest was pitch black, silent, motionless, as if nothing had happened. I grabbed the radio. "Unit 4 to dispatch. We need search and rescue. My partner, he's gone." The radio crackled with static. Then a voice answered, a voice I knew too well. "Evan." "Don't come back," he whispered. My blood went cold. Evan! Evan, where are you? But the voice wasn't coming from the radio anymore. It was coming from the tree line. Soft, whispering, like he was standing just inside the forest, watching me. Search and rescue teams combed the woods for 3 days. They found nothing. No footprints, no clothing, no signs of struggle. They even checked old records. The number that called 911 that night, disconnected since 1998. The clearing we found? Local rangers said it had been closed off for years after several disappearances. Some locals call it the Whispering Hour Zone, claiming that after midnight, the forest doesn't allow the living to walk freely. Anyone inside the woods during that hour becomes part of it, part of them. No one believes my story. They say trauma made me hallucinate, that I imagined the voices, the man, the figures. But I know what I saw. I know what took Evan. And every night at 11:58 p.m., I hear it again, a whisper outside my window. Wrong hour. And sometimes I hear Evan's voice in the whispering breeze, saying, "Don't forget me." I close my curtains, lock my doors, count down the minutes until sunrise. But deep inside, I know one truth. The whispering hour never ends. It only waits. Story 5. I've always hated night shifts, especially the kind that stretch long enough to make you question whether morning is even real anymore. But bills don't pay themselves. And in the fall of 2022, after losing my job at a hardware store in Cedar Brook, Oregon, I took whatever work came first. And that work was at Ravenswood Trail Campground, a place everyone in town quietly avoided after sunset. People said the woods behind the campground weren't normal. People said they heard things. But I didn't believe rumors. Not then. Not until that night. The night everything changed. The night I learned that some places aren't just haunted, they're hungry. My shift started at 7 p.m., same as always. A chilly wind combed through the towering pines that wrapped around the campground like ribs around a heart. The trailer that served as the main office stood alone under a dim floodlight that flickered every few seconds like it was breathing. I clocked in, poured myself burnt coffee, and sat in the creaking swivel chair facing the only window. Nothing unusual, until the radio crackled. A whisper, soft, shaky, slid through the static. Is someone there? It was a woman's voice, not panicked but hollow, like she was speaking from inside a cold room. I pressed the receiver. "This is camp office. Ma'am, you need help?" Silence. Then a faint click, and the signal died. I shrugged it off. Probably some kids messing with walkie frequencies again. But then the power inside the office blinked once, twice, then stayed steady. I didn't know it yet, but that flicker was the first warning. By 8:30, the coffee tasted like wet dirt, but kept me awake enough to monitor the old security screen. The system covered 6 camera feeds around the campground. I glanced at the screen lazily, then froze. Campsite number 19, deep at the far end of the trail, showed a man standing perfectly still beside a picnic table. He wasn't a camper. I knew every registered guest. He stood facing the woods, his back to the camera, wearing a dark jacket and jeans. No movement, no shift in posture, just stillness. I leaned forward. What the hell was he doing out there at 8:30 with no tent, no car, nothing? I zoomed the camera slightly, and then he tilted his head, not toward the woods, toward the camera, very slowly. But I couldn't see his face, just the back of his head, slightly turned, like he knew I was watching. I picked up the radio. "Security to campsite 19, do you copy?" Nothing. Static. I switched channels. "Any staff near 19? Someone's trespassing." Silence. I checked the staff list. I was the only one on duty. A knot tightened in my stomach. I shouldn't go out there, but if someone got hurt, it'd be on me. So I grabbed the flashlight, slipped on my jacket, and stepped outside into the cold. The trail leading to campsite 19 was swallowed in darkness, the tall fir trees blotting out what little moonlight there was. My flashlight painted thin cones of pale yellow across the dirt path. Every footstep echoed louder than it should have. Crunch. Crunch. I kept scanning the woods. My radio hissed suddenly. Then a whisper. "Don't look at him." I froze. "Who is this?" I demanded, Static. The voice didn't return. Great, I thought. Either someone's pranking me, or I'm about to walk into something very stupid. When I reached the clearing of campsite 19, I saw the picnic table exactly where it should be. But the man, he wasn't there anymore. I shined my light around, heartbeat hammering. Sir? Park security. I need to confirm you're not injured. No response, just wind moving through the branches. Then, behind me, a twig snapped. I turned instantly. My flashlight landed on a tree trunk, and something behind it moved out of sight. Sir, come out, I said, stepping closer. Another whisper drifted between the trees. Can you see me now? The voice didn't come from a human throat. Not exactly. It sounded like someone speaking through a cracked wooden flute. Hollow. Wrong. My pulse slammed hard. I took 2 steps back and aimed my flashlight higher, sweeping tree limbs. Something was perched on one of the branches. At first, all I saw were 2 pale hands gripping the wood, fingers long, too long. Then a face leaned downward, a white, expressionless oval with no features except a mouth stretched into a thin, silent smile. It wasn't the man. It wasn't anything human. Its head jerked to the left in a sharp twitch, then to the right, like it was learning how to move. My breath caught, and then it spoke. In the same woman's voice I'd heard on the radio. Help me! It mimicked her perfectly. I stepped back, pulse exploding. Branches cracked above. The thing started climbing down, fast. I turned and ran. By the time I reached the office, my lungs were on fire. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and yanked the blinds. My hands shook so badly I dropped the radio twice before grabbing the phone. No dial tone. Not dead, just missing, like the wire inside had been cut. I checked the cameras. My blood turned to ice. The creature from the tree was no longer on feed 19. It was on feed 3, then feed 2, moving closer, then feed 1. Right outside the office door, not walking, not running, just appearing closer and closer with each blink of the camera, like it didn't move between places. It shifted. I backed away from the monitors, heart slamming against my ribs. The floodlight outside flickered violently, and then 3 slow knocks on the door. Knock, knock, knock. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice steady. Stay back. I'm armed. Lie. The knocking stopped. Silence. Then a whisper slid from the crack under the door. I can see you now. My mind raced. The reports, the missing hikers, the whispers locals refused to talk about. People always said, Ravenswood Trail takes what it wants. Now I knew what they meant. Something lived in those woods. Something that could copy voices. Something that watched people. And tonight, it chose me. Suddenly the lights cut out. Everything went black. My chest tightened. I couldn't hear my heartbeat over the ringing in my ears. I fumbled for my flashlight, the beam flicked on, and landed on the far corner of the room. The creature stood there, as if it had always been there. Its body looked human from the neck down. But its face, the pale mask had split open at the center, revealing a dark, endless void where a mouth should be. Long fingers pointed straight at me. In a deep, layered voice, like many people whispering together, it spoke. Now you see us. Us. Plural. My stomach flipped. I turned the flashlight toward the blinds. Hands, dozens, pressing against the window from outside. They were all around the office, inside, outside, everywhere. And all of them were whispering, "Stay with us." I bolted for the back exit. The back door burst open and I sprinted into the night. Cold air slapped my face as I stumbled over roots and rocks. I didn't know where I was running. I just knew I couldn't stay near the office. The trees thinned. The parking lot came into view. Almost there. Almost. Something grabbed my ankle. I fell, hitting the dirt hard. Pain shot up my knee. I looked back. A pale hand was gripping me from under the ground. Fingers clawed tight around my boot. Another hand burst from the soil. Then another. And another. Voices rose from the earth like breath from a grave. Don't leave. I kicked free, scrambling backwards until my hands hit gravel. I forced myself up and sprinted the last few feet to my car. I yanked the door open, jumped inside, and slammed the locks down. The windows fogged instantly as dozens of whispers pressed against the glass from all sides. I jammed the keys into the ignition. The engine roared. I floored it. The car shot forward, tires skidding across the lot. In the rearview mirror, the thing from the tree stepped into the open, watching me leave, its mask-like face splitting again into that terrible, endless hollow. It didn't chase me. It didn't need to, because I knew. Ravenswood Trail doesn't chase people. It waits, and it remembers. I moved to Phoenix, Arizona. New job, new apartment, new life. But sometimes, at 3 a.m., I hear static crackle from my phone. A woman's voice whispers, "Is someone there?" And when I check my hallway camera in the morning, there are handprints, small, pale, pressed against the inside of my apartment door. I haven't returned to Oregon since that night, but the thing from Ravenswood, it found me anyway. Because when something like that sees you, when it learns your face, when it speaks your voice, it never lets go. It never stops watching. And worst of all, it never comes alone. Story 6, I never expected Hemlock Ridge to change my life, let alone almost end it. I was 24 when I moved to the small town of Redwood Falls, Colorado, a quiet valley-side community tucked between winding pine forests and old mining roads. I wasn't running from anything. At least that's what I told myself. But deep down, I knew I wanted to escape the noise, the people, the endless reminders of a life that hadn't gone the way I hoped. I worked nights as a part-time courier for a regional medical supply company. Most nights were easy. Pick up the sealed boxes, drive the refrigerated van through the mountain roads, drop deliveries at clinics. But horror night, as people in town jokingly called the first Friday of December, was different. Not because it was scary, but because something always went wrong. Power outages, wolves spotted near the highway, strange radio static, people going missing from the trailheads. Locals laughed it off. Outsiders shrugged it off. The sheriff claimed it was superstition. But on that night, when my delivery route changed unexpectedly, I realized some stories aren't superstition at all. They're warnings. It started with a message from dispatch at 9:14 p.m. Change en route. Add delivery. Hemlock Ridge Research Facility. Restricted site. Don't enter beyond main lobby. Deliver to Dr. Callan. I stared at it twice. Hemlock Ridge? I had never even heard of it. When I asked dispatch, all they said was, "Just deliver the package. Don't ask questions," which is always the exact line you don't want to hear on a night shift. Still, I needed the money, so I followed the GPS. The main highway grew darker as I drove north. Snow drifted across the asphalt like pale ghosts racing beside me. Pines leaned over the road like watching shadows. There were no houses, no cars, not even radio stations, just static. And then about 30 minutes later, I saw it. A wide iron gate, tall floodlights, a weather-beaten sign half buried in snow. Hemlock Ridge Biobehavioral Laboratory, authorized entry only. The place looked abandoned. No lights inside, no security booth occupied, no footprints in the snow. My stomach nodded, but when I stepped out, the gate slid open on its own with a slow metal groan. I didn't like that. In fact, I hated it. Still, I drove in. The building was massive and silent, built with concrete walls and narrow slit windows. It didn't match anything I'd ever seen in Redwood Falls. Too industrial, too secretive. Inside, the lobby lights flickered weakly, as if waking up from a long sleep. A faint metallic smell hung in the air, like dried blood and old chemicals. At the front desk sat an old sign-in sheet dated 2009. No recent entries. I pushed the bell. It didn't ring. It hissed. Then a voice crackled through a speaker above the desk. "Leave the package on the counter." It wasn't a normal voice. No texture, no breaths. Just flat. I'm supposed to hand it directly to Dr. Callan," I said, tightening my jacket. Silence, then. "Dr. Callan is unavailable. Leave the package." My pulse ticked. Dispatch said, "Leave the package." This time the voice glitched, like two tones overlapping. Every instinct in my body screamed to walk away. But job rules were job rules. I placed the cold box on the desk and turned to leave. That's when I heard it. A soft shuffle down the hallway, then another, and then a slow dragging sound. I froze. The hallway lights flickered on in sections, one after another, until a tall figure became visible at the far end. He wore a white lab coat, and his head, it didn't move naturally. It twitched, like it was adjusting itself. "Dr. Callan," I called. The figure stopped, then began walking toward me. Slow, uneven steps, one foot scraping along the floor. A chill crawled up my spine. Something was wrong with the way he moved. Something was wrong with his arms. Too long, too stiff. Something was wrong with his shadow. It didn't match his steps. I backed away. The lights flickered again, and for 1 second I saw it clearly. The face wasn't a face at all. No eyes, no mouth, just pale skin stretched over a smooth surface, like a mask that had never been completed. I bolted for the exit. The sensor doors didn't open. I yanked them. Nothing. Behind me, the footsteps grew faster, no longer uneven, now sharp and frantic. Then the speaker above me screeched, "He knows you're here!" I slammed my fists on the door. "Open! Open!" The voice hissed, "Hide, or you die." That was all I needed to hear. I sprinted to the left hallway, passing old offices, dusty labs, and rooms with shattered one-way mirrors. Papers littered the floors. Equipment was smashed. Doors hung loose from broken hinges. Whatever happened here happened fast. Halfway down the hall, I slipped into a dark storage room and shut the door quietly. The footsteps entered the hallway, then stopped outside my door. My breath froze in my throat. I heard slow tapping, like fingernails against metal, then scraping, sliding, sniffing. Finally, the voice whispered through the crack, "You shouldn't have come," and the footsteps walked away. But I wasn't relieved, because in the room with me, something shifted. At first, I thought it was just shadows, but when my eyes adjusted, I saw her, a woman, maybe mid-30s, sitting in the corner with her knees pulled to her chest. Her clothes were torn lab garments. Her hands shook violently. She stared at me with wide, terrified eyes. Who are you?" I whispered. She crawled closer, but motioned for me to be quiet. "My name is Anna Briggs," she whispered back. "I was part of the research team. You shouldn't be here. Nobody should." "What happened?" I asked, but she covered my mouth instantly. Her hand trembled. "He hears voices, echoes, vibrations. Even your heartbeat," she whispered. "If he thinks you're alive, he hunts you." The air grew colder. The hallway outside fell silent again. "Who is he?" I mouthed silently. Her eyes filled with tears. "Dr. Callan, or what's left of him." My chest tightened. What was he before? "A test subject," she swallowed. "They were trying to create a new form of sensory deprivation treatment. But they went too far, stripped everything away. Sight, sound, identity. The brain rewrote itself. He became something that doesn't need eyes or ears to find you." A thud echoed in the hallway. Anna grabbed my arm. "He knows you're still inside." "Is there another exit?" I whispered. She nodded. "The old service tunnels, but we need to reach the sub-level 2. And he doesn't like the cold down there," she said. "It slows him." We slipped out of the room, moving quietly through the hall. The lights flickered overhead like strobes. Every shadow looked like it was breathing. When we reached the stairwell, Anna froze. A single smear of blood trailed down the steps. Fresh. "He dragged someone recently," she whispered. My stomach turned. We descended anyway. Sub-level 2 was worse than the floors above. Dim emergency lights, flickering red, long industrial pipes dripping condensation, and the faint hum of old generators. "This way," Anna said, leading me to a heavy door with rusted hinges. But as she pushed it open, something rattled in the pipes above us. A metallic clink. Then another. Then a long, slow scrape. Anna grabbed my hand. "He's in the ducts." We ran into the tunnel. It was freezing, our breaths puffing in white clouds as we moved through the narrow passageway. The ceiling was low enough that we had to crouch. Behind us, metal groaned. Then a screech. Then a thud from inside the ventilation shaft. "He's tracking the air," Anna whispered, panic in her voice. "He can feel the pressure changes." We crawled faster. My knees burned. My hands froze. My mind raced. The shaft above us boomed as something heavy slammed inside it. Anna screamed. I grabbed her arm. Keep moving. We reached a small maintenance hatch. I pushed her through first, then climbed out. The shaft above burst open, and he dropped down. Not human, not anymore. Bones elongated, spine curved, arms hanging like broken branches, skin pale, stretched, featureless. But he turned toward us without eyes. He sensed us. He knew us. He shrieked, a sound like metal tearing metal, and charged. We sprinted down the tunnel, the creature scraping the floor behind us, gaining speed. My lungs burned. Anna tripped, but I pulled her up. Ahead, an exit door. I slammed into it, locked. Keys, do you have keys? I shouted. Anna searched her pockets frantically. They took everything. The creature screeched closer. I rammed my shoulder again. The door didn't budge. Then Anna pointed to a nearby circuit panel. Break it, override it. I grabbed a pipe from the floor and smashed the panel repeatedly. Sparks erupted. Lights flickered. The creature's footsteps grew louder, closer, almost behind us. The lock clicked. The door swung open. We scrambled out into the freezing night behind the facility. Snow fell fast and heavy. I turned to shut the door, but the creature shoved its arm through the frame. Its long, jagged fingers clawed for my throat. Anna screamed. I slammed the door repeatedly, crushing its arm until it cracked like brittle wood. It withdrew, shrieking in agony. I locked the door. Anna collapsed in the snow, sobbing. We have to warn the town. They don't know. Nobody knows. I nodded. Then headlights appeared through the snow. A black SUV. Men in dark uniforms stepped out. Step away from the door, one of them ordered. Listen, I shouted. There's something inside. Something that escaped their experiments. But the man shook his head. You shouldn't have seen this facility. Two more men approached Anna. She backed away, terrified. I'm not going back, she cried. You can't make me go back. A tranquilizer dart hit her neck. She collapsed. I lunged toward her, but two officers grabbed me. Hey, stop! She's human! She needs help! She's contaminated, one officer said coldly. So are you. My heart stopped. What? They loaded Anna into the SUV. Then one man leaned close to me and whispered, If you talk about tonight, you disappear, just like the others. They shoved me backward into the snow and drove away, leaving me alone, breathing hard, frozen, terrified. Behind me in the darkness of the facility, something slammed against the reinforced door. Again, and again, and again. That was 6 months ago. Hemlock Ridge was sealed off the next morning. Government signs appeared overnight. Nobody in Redwood Falls talks about it. Nobody admits it exists. Anna was never found. Her name doesn't appear in any public records. Dr. Callan is listed as deceased since 2010. But every first Friday of December, horror night, I hear it again. A faint metal scraping in the woods near my cabin. Something moving without footsteps. Something that knows my heartbeat. Something that never forgot I escaped. I left the job. I packed my bags. I tried to leave Colorado. But the morning I planned to drive away, there were footprints outside my door. Long, dragging, uneven, leading into the forest, waiting, watching, listening. I still hear the scrape every night now, and I know, one day soon, he will come for me, because I wasn't supposed to survive that night, and things that lose their senses, don't forget the ones who got away.